The most profound and uniquely agonizing pain for a man begins not with a final goodbye, but with the slow, chilling silence that suggests one is coming. It's the eerie quiet that descends upon a relationship that once buzzed with life. Rhythm of connection, once as natural as a heartbeat, begins to falter. The daily texts that served as a constant, reassuring thread between your worlds become sporadic, then sparse, then stop altogether. The calls that used to stretch for hours, filled with easy laughter and shared silence, are now replaced by brief, obligatory check-ins that feel heavy with unspoken words, until even those cease. Her warmth, that intangible energy that made you feel seen and anchored, simply vanishes, leaving a void that seems to swallow all the light and sound around you in this sudden emptiness. The mind, desperate for answers where none are given, turns against itself. You find yourself replaying every single moment, obsessively scanning the past for clues you must have missed. You analyze every word exchanged, searching for the hidden meaning, the accidental insult, the careless remark that might have been the catalyst for this cold retreat. You compile a mental ledger of every mistake, every time you were short-tempered, every occasion you were distracted, every instance you failed to be the man you promised you would be. No, this internal inquisition is not a search for understanding. It is a form of self-flagellation, a process through which you become convinced beyond any doubt that it is over. The evidence feels overwhelming because the absence feels absolute. This conviction that you have lost her is the trigger for a primal panic. This is the critical juncture where the path splits, and most men, blinded by fear and the ache of loss, choose the wrong one. The instinct is to close the distance at any cost. They chase. They double down on messages, pleading for a response, for an explanation, for anything but this silence. They beg, trading their dignity for a chance to reverse the irreversible. They lay their emotions bare, collapsing into a raw, unfiltered weakness. Believing that such a display of vulnerability will evoke pity or compassion, they mistakenly believe that the intensity of their pain will prove the depth of their love. But here is the essential, counterintuitive truth you must grasp in this pivotal moment. You have not lost her. Not yet. This retreat is not necessarily the end of the story. It is often a crucible. A woman's withdrawal is frequently a test, one of the most profound tests a man will face. She pulls back to see what the architecture of your character is made of when her presence is no longer there to support it. She creates distance to observe whether the strength you displayed was genuine and intrinsic, or merely an act performed for an audience of one. She detaches to witness if you will crumble without her validation, thereby revealing your entire identity was dependent on her. If you fail this test by panicking and chasing, you confirm her deepest doubts, and that is when you truly, irrevocably lose her. But if you can find a way to hold your ground, to master the panic and remain steadfast, that is when the entire narrative begins to change. The illusion of loss is just that, an illusion. The reality is that the battle for respect and attraction is just beginning, and it is won not by chasing, but by standing firm to truly navigate a woman's retreat. You must first learn to speak the language of instinct. Her actions are rarely a calculated, conscious decision made in cold blood. They are not a spreadsheet of your flaws or a final verdict read from a bench. Instead, her pulling away is most often an instinctual response, a deep-seated form of protection that operates far below the surface of logical thought. She may not even be fully aware of why she's doing it herself. It is a primal reflex, honed over millennia, designed to assess the safety, reliability, and strength of her potential partner. She feels a subtle shift in the emotional climate, a faint doubt about the stability of the foundation you've built, or she intuitively questions whether your confidence is authentic or a facade. In that moment of uncertainty, her system triggers a retreat. She withdraws into herself to create space, not to punish you, but to observe. This created distance is not an empty void. It is her ultimate proving ground. It is a silent examination where the only thing she is grading is your response to uncertainty and emotional pressure. The entire dynamic is a test of your internal fortitude. When she steps back, she is watching. With a hyper-aware sensitivity to see what you will do with the space she has vacated, If you immediately rush to fill that silence with noise, with pleading texts, panicked calls, and emotional demands for reassurance, you are, in her eyes, writing the answer key to all her doubts. You are confirming her deepest suspicion that you are emotionally dependent on her for your own stability. You're chasing screams that your center of gravity exists outside of yourself, that you are a satellite lost without its planet. This neediness is the ultimate repellent, as it signals to her instinct that you lack the inner resources to navigate life's inevitable storms. It's making you an unreliable partner. However, if you respond by mirroring her calmness, by maintaining your focus and your pace, you communicate something entirely different and profoundly powerful. Your steadiness proves that your foundation is built on the bedrock of your own purpose and self-worth, not on the shifting sands of her validation. This calmness is a silent language that speaks directly to her intuition. It tells her you are not governed by her emotional weather, that you possess an inner equilibrium that remains unshaken even when she is not there to provide external balance. It demonstrates emotional independence, which is the cornerstone of true strength. This is the paradox you must internalize. By trying to hold on to her, you push her away. By calmly holding on to yourself, you pull her back. Your composure under this emotional pressure doesn't just ease her mind. It actively softens her instincts. The very doubts that caused her to retreat begin to dissolve because your behavior is providing a counter-argument more compelling than any words you could ever speak. You are showing her, not telling her, that she is with a man who is grounded, capable, and whole on his own. This demonstration of strength in the face of potential loss is what quiets her protective alarms and allows her to feel safe enough to re-engage. It transforms the test from a reason to leave into a reason to stay. In the deafening silence that follows her retreat, every fiber of your being will scream for action. It will demand that you do something, anything, to bridge the gap, to regain control, to stop the agonizing uncertainty. This impulse is the siren song of weakness, and succumbing to it is the single greatest mistake you can make. In this critical moment, your most powerful weapon is not a grand gesture or a passionate speech. It is your own disciplined composure. Your ability to hold your frame to maintain your emotional integrity and purpose, despite the internal stormies, what will ultimately decide the outcome. The man who interprets her silence as a vacuum he must fill with noise only succeeds in annihilating any lingering respect she may have held for him. He becomes a statistic, just another desperate figure in a long line of men who collapsed when tested, who revealed that their entire identity was contingent upon her presence and approval. Conversely, the man who has the fortitude to match her silence with his own purposeful calm does something extraordinary. His lack of desperate action becomes an unspoken message of immense power. It communicates without a single word, "I am not afraid to lose you. My world does not crumble with your absence. I am already complete without you." It's not a message of indifference or a lack of care. It is a profound demonstration of self-worth and inner security. It signals that your value is not something she bestows upon you, but something you carry within yourself, a value that remains constant, regardless of her proximity. This is the ultimate display of a solid frame and unshakable sense of self that cannot be easily influenced by external events or another person's emotional state. This strategic silence does not create nothingness, it creates a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human psyche. When you refuse to provide the desperate energy, she may unconsciously expect the texts, the calls, the explanations. You remove her ability to react against you. She is suddenly left alone in the quiet space she created, without your frantic efforts to focus on her attention, has nowhere to go but inward. This is where the magic happens. She begins to wonder. She questions why you haven't broken. She wonders if you are moving on. She starts to replay your past interactions, but now through a new lens, the lens of your recent stoicism. The memories of your strength, your humor, your presence begin to resurface, now colored with the intrigue of your current self-control. She begins to feel the weight of your absence because you have given her the space to actually feel it. This process of longing and curiosity cannot begin if you never relinquish the spotlight. By constantly chasing, you keep the focus on your own desperate actions, making yourself the subject of her irritation or pity. You never allow her the quiet moment necessary for her to miss you. But by standing still in your own power, you shift the emotional labor onto her. You force her to confront the reality of your potential loss. Your silence becomes the canvas upon she projects her own doubts, questions, and ultimately, her renewed interest. It is the calm in the storm that she cannot help but be drawn to, because it is the one thing her instinct recognizes as truly strong and reliable. You become the steady rock in her swirling emotional waters, and that is an irresistible anchor for any woman. The moment you are convinced she is gone, you stand at the most critical crossroads of the entire ordeal. This is not a passive experience. It is an active, defining choice that will set the trajectory for your future, with or without her. One path is well-trodden, lit by the flickering, desperate flame of neediness. It is the path of weakness, and it is deceptively easy to follow because it aligns with the raw, untamed impulse of your fear. This is the path where you compromise your dignity in a series of humiliating transactions, trading pieces of your self-respect for the faint hope of another chance. You abandon the mission that gives your life meaning and direction instead, making her your sole purpose. You plead, you negotiate, you offer unearned apologies for crimes you didn't commit, and you promise a future of perfection in a desperate attempt to cancel out the present reality of your pain. In doing so, you achieve the exact opposite of your goal. You lose not only her, but you also lose yourself. You become a hollowed-out version of the man she was once attracted to, and that hollow man is someone she cannot respect, and therefore cannot love. The other path is narrower, steeper, and shrouded in the fog of uncertainty. It is the path of strength, and it demands every ounce of your willpower. This path is harder because it requires you to act contrary to every screaming instinct of your fear. The directive is simple, but its execution is the ultimate test of character. You do not chase. You do not break the silence you have worked so hard to maintain. Instead, you perform the most powerful act possible. You turn away from the void she left, and you return decisively to your own purpose. You channel the ache of that silence, the raw energy of that pain, and you use it. As fuel, this becomes your training ground. You hit the gym with more intensity. You pour yourself into your work with renewed focus. You reconnect with friends. You dive into your hobbies. You rebuild the architecture of your life brick by brick, proving to yourself that your validation is an internal source, not an external. Grant, this is the ultimate paradox that most men fail to understand. By choosing yourself, by actively demonstrating that your world continues to spin on its axis through its own momentum, you magnetically become the man she is instinctively drawn to. Women are not ultimately drawn to men who need them. They are drawn to men who choose them. Neediness is a burden, a weight that suffocates attraction. Choice, however, is a gift. It is a conscious selection from a place of abundance. When a man is complete on his own, his decision to be with a woman is a compliment of the highest order. It means he is not with her to fill a void in himself, because he genuinely values her presence alongside his already fulfilling life. Your retreat back to your own mission is the loudest statement you can make. It screams that you are the prize, that your time and attention are valuable commodities, and that you will not auction them off to the lowest bidder out of desperation. This isn't a game. It is the foundation of genuine self-worth. And that unshakable foundation is the only thing that can support a healthiest, lasting attraction. The beautiful, unshakable truth that redeems all the pain and uncertainty is this: the man who holds his frame in the face of potential loss always wins. This is not a hollow platitude. It is a fundamental law of power and attraction. When you refuse to crumble, you fundamentally alter the dynamics of the situation, placing the outcome entirely on your own terms. There are only two possible conclusions to this test, and both are, in their own way, victories. The first is that she returns. This is not a return born from pity or guilt, but one compelled by a respect that you cultivated through your unwavering strength and disciplined silence. She comes back because she saw that her absence did not break you. It revealed you. The attraction that is rekindled is not the same as before, is deeper, more resilient, built on the solid foundation of genuine respect rather than the shaky ground of neediness. She has seen your core strength, and that is a vision a woman does not forget. The second outcome is that she does not return, and yet, even in this scenario, you still win. This is the critical understanding that liberates you from fear. By choosing the path of strength, you emerge from the experience transformed. You are stronger, more disciplined, and more sharply focused on your mission than you were before this began. You have not humiliated yourself or compromised your dignity in a way that would haunt you later. You have no regrets about your conduct. You walked through the fire, and you did not burn. You were tempered. You have grown. This personal evolution is a prize in itself, making you more capable and more attractive in all future endeavors and relationships. Her distance was never a final verdict on your worth. It was merely a mirror held up to it. If you looked into that mirror during her silence and saw a reflection of weakness, neediness, and desperation, the solution was never to try to break the mirror or beg the reflection to change. The only true solution was to change what was being reflected. The solution was to fix yourself, to build that inner strength so that the next time a mirror is held up by her or by any challenge life presents, you see an unshakable man staring back. The man who doesn't flinch at distance, who is not defined by a woman's presence or absence, has achieved a profound state of freedom. He operates from a place of abundance, not scarcity. He knows that his value is intrinsic and non-negotiable. This man never truly loses a woman. He only ever discovers more about his own capacity for strength. He understands that sometimes the most powerful way to hold on to someone is to have the courage to let them go, trusting that if your energy is truly aligned, they will find their way back to the calm, solid center you provide. And if they don't, his world remains rich, full, and moving forward. Because it was built on the bedrock of himself, not on the sands of another person's presence, that man never loses. He only grows. And that is the truth that changes everything.